The execution of Nimisha Priya, the Kerala-born nurse on death row in Yemen, was postponed last week. The nurse has been imprisoned in the Yemeni capital of Sana'a since 2018 and was sentenced to death in 2020 for the murder of Yemeni national Talal Abdul Mahdi. In 2023, the Supreme Judicial Council of Yemen upheld the death sentence, leaving Priya with two options for freedom: a presidential pardon or the payment of blood money to Mehdi's family. Negotiations over the payment of blood money were ongoing between Mehdi's family and Priya's family. However, by September 2024, the negotiations were said to have hit a roadblock. Last week, Randeep Jaiswal, the spokesperson for the Ministry of External Affairs, confirmed that New Delhi has been in touch with the local authorities, the Houthis, in Sana'a as it continues to diplomatically seek her release. Efforts have been made by the Save Nimisha Priya International Action Council to negotiate the payment of blood money with Mehdi's family. In April 2024, Prema Kumari, Nimisha Priya's mother, travelled to Yemen along with a few others in an effort to secure her release. In 2022, Lulu Group chairman M.A. Yusuf Ali and other business persons from Kerala, including Bobby Chemanur, have come forward offering rupees 1 crore each for any potential settlement with Mahdi's family for the release of Nimisha Priya. However, the efforts to save Nimisha Priya have taken a turn, with Talal Abdul Mahdi's brother, Abdul Fattah Mahdi, earlier in the day accusing Samuel Jerome of extorting money in the name of saving the nurse. Jerome has been seen in the past as a representative of Nimisha Priya's family in securing her release. Born in Kerala's Palakkad district, Nimisha Priya first moved to Yemen in 2008 for work. 3 years later, she married Tommy Thomas, and the two moved back to Yemen and continued working in the West Asian nation. In 2015, Nimisha Priya opened her own clinic in Yemen. For a foreigner to operate a business in Yemen, the law requires a local partner. Mahdi entered the situation here. However, Priya eventually opened the clinic with her former boss, Abdul Latif. Mahdi eventually included himself as a shareholder to the business and further created documents to indicate that Priya was his wife and eventually confiscated her passport. Facing torture at the hands of Mahdi, Priya eventually decided to sedate him, retrieve her documents, and leave the country, according to reports. However, Mahdi died, and Priya was eventually arrested while attempting to flee the country. Nimisha Priya has remained imprisoned in the Yemeni capital of Sana'a, which has been governed by the separatist movement known as the Ansar Allah, also known as the Houthis. India does not recognize nor maintain ties with the Iran-backed movement that has controlled Sana'a since 2014. Rather, it recognizes the government operating in the port city of Aden to the south, which is also internationally recognized as the regime in charge of Yemen. Currently, the internationally recognized government is led by Rashad al-Alimi. Yemen, a fractured nation in the midst of a civil war for over a decade, with rival regional powers jockeying for influence, combined with the lack of diplomatic representation from New Delhi, have all played a role in the complexities regarding the fate of Nimisha Priya. Since September 2014, Yemen has been in the midst of a civil war fought primarily between the internationally recognized government, currently led by Rashad al-Alimi, and the Ansar Allah, or also known as the Houthis. The Houthis are known currently for their efforts to disrupt the trade in the Red Sea in response to Israel's military actions in the Gaza Strip. The civil war in Yemen has regional implications, with Saudi Arabia leading a coalition to dislodge the Houthis from power. Iran, however, supports the Houthis, a Shiite revivalist movement with a history of rising up in arms against the Sunnis in power in Yemen. Yemen at the time, in 2015, became the latest flashpoint for the proxy struggle between Riyadh and Tehran for regional influence over West Asia. In April 2015, after evacuating its citizens from Yemen, India shut down its mission in the West Asian nation, with all issues regarding to the country handled through its embassy in Saudi Arabia. Indians have been banned from traveling to Yemen since 2017. When Priya first moved to Yemen in 2008, the country had been under the control of Ali Abdullah Saleh for over 18 years. Saleh, born in 1946 in a town little outside of Sana'a, rose to the ranks of the military of what was then called North Yemen. North Yemen, in the 60s, was divided between the monarchists and the republicans and was led by a number of military juntas till Saleh arrived on the political scene in 1978. For the next 12 years, the Yemeni strongman consolidated power and led the country's eventual reunification with the communist South Yemen in 1990 following the collapse of the USSR. Saleh remained in power for the next 22 years until the effects of the Arab Spring led to his downfall in 2012. In September 2014, the Ansar Allah occupied Sana'a, demanding lower fuel prices and the formation of a new government. The rebel movement swept south from its stronghold in the north and within months had captured Sana'a. Saleh was replaced at the end of the Arab Spring by President Hadi. Hadi and the Houthis engaged in fraught negotiations to find a political agreement. However, this failed. In January 2015, Hadi resigned and eventually fled Yemen for Saudi Arabia. In February 2015, Hadi rescinded his resignation, and a month later, Saudi Arabia, along with a coalition of Gulf states, began their war in Yemen to dislodge the Houthis through both economic isolation and airstrikes, along with the logistical support from the United States of America. The Houthis, during the initial stages, received support from Saleh, as well as military aid from Tehran. The movement soon controlled territory consisting of roughly 70% of the population, according to some estimates. The proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran continued for years in Yemen, with the front lines largely stabilizing following the Saudi-led intervention. Eventually, the Hadi government stabilized its control over Aden, while the Houthis held Sana'a and large swaths of north and northwestern Yemen. Eventually, in 2022, a ceasefire was agreed by both parties, which has been maintained since. Hadi resigned in 2022 after a decade in power, leading to a presidential leadership council consisting of 8 members, led by Rashad al-Alami, to power. The PLC is the internationally recognized regime and operates out of Aden. That's all for me today. For more such news and analysis, subscribe below.